Hi, welcome to biology. My name is Virginia McCabe, and it's good to have you watching this recording in our virtual back to school night. Before we really get started, I want to show you a slide I shared with your children in a slideshow a couple of weeks ago and let you know that I'm very sensitive to mental health issues. So if at any time you think your child is struggling with extreme anxiety or depression or stress for any reason, but maybe as a result of our global situation right now, please feel free to email me. And there are resources on campus. We have a lot of wonderful school counselors to help mitigate some of what many of us are feeling because of this unusual situation. I'm doing my best to make virtual learning as streamlined as it can possibly be for your children. So slideshows, which I have a daily slideshow, are always posted in Schoology at the end of the school day, so they can refer back to them. Having both a computer and a phone is not absolutely necessary, but we do use our phone sometimes for additional online game programs, and it's easier for the students if they have two devices when we do those learning games. This is really important. The computer has to have a working camera and microphone, and so if at any time that's not the case, there is a tech form that your students can fill out to get a computer issued to them by Fremont High School. I have been teaching at Fremont High School for 15 years and teaching for 28 years overall. And this is a fun fact about me. 15 years ago, I married another biology teacher at Fremont High School named John McGee. And the whole school was invited. It happened in the amphitheater, and it made us quite famous for a while. We love to ride mountain bikes, and this is a picture of us in Canada 2 years ago when we did a tour and experienced some of the most beautiful nature I've ever seen in my entire life. These are my two adult daughters. One is in her senior year of college and one has graduated from college. And this is a picture of my favorite nature spot, which is the beach. Every day I start class with a warm-up, which is projected on the screen as students enter the Zoom meeting. I try to have a funny or silly meme to make them smile, and that is their time to do the attendance question and look at the daily lesson flow so they know what we're doing that day, and sometimes I have a little video clip for them to watch about the topic for the day. It's a nice way to start class because they can ease in and they don't have to get stressed out about being in the meeting exactly on the nose of when the class started. I'm lenient within the first 5 to 10 minutes because I know that getting into a Zoom meeting can sometimes be stressful, and especially if the technology fails. At the end of class, there's always something called an exit ticket, which they also get points for. They get points for the attendance question and the exit ticket. And it's usually a couple of multiple choice style questions or sometimes a short answer question. So I can check in with them, see how they're doing, and if they're understanding the main ideas of what we're learning. I also post this slide at the end of every single lesson so that they are very clear on what they should turn in that day. I know a lot of students are concerned that they'll miss a due date because virtual learning is so different than what they're used to, but I try to make it as easy as possible for them to understand what is due when. Our biology course is based around knowledge guides, which the 4 teachers develop and which we use to make our weekly assessments. So your students have a link in Schoology to the current knowledge guide, and I encourage them always to print it out so that they have a paper copy they can secure into their notebook, because it's a reference paper that they should be looking at often throughout the unit. It lists the key ideas that they should be learning and understanding. I'm not going to go over my entire syllabus, but my grading policy is such that assessments count for 50% of their grade and everything else falls into these categories, counts for the other 50% of their grade. You'll notice that the grading scale is not a traditional scale. It's a little more generous. 85 to 100% is an A, 70 to 84% is a B, 50 to 69% is a C, and 40 to 49% is a D. We give weekly assessments on Wednesdays, which is a little unusual, but the students are getting used to it. We start at 10:15 and we end at 10:30. And the students are pretty clear now that there's no Zoom meeting on Wednesday. They just go into Schoology, open the assessment, which is always at the very top in an obvious place, answer the questions, and then submit. If they happen to miss it for some reason, something goes wrong, there is a form in Schoology that they should fill out so that we can assess whether they are eligible for a makeup, and then talk to them about scheduling that makeup assessment. That kind of connects to my absence policy, which is contingent upon communication. So if they do need to be absent, and they know ahead of time because maybe it's a medical appointment or something like that, they should email me and I can work with them so they don't get behind. If they miss and it's after the absence, they should also email me. But in addition, they should first look in Schoology because everything we did that day will be in the folder for that day. And it's probably the case that they can get started on something at home and not get too far behind. Really, the main thing they need for class is a laptop or desktop computer with a working camera and microphone. I also ask them to keep a biology notebook because occasionally we do ask them to take notes, and they're allowed to use those notes on the assessments. It's also a place where I like them to put a paper copy of their knowledge guide if they have a printer at home, because that makes it easier to use that reference paper regularly. The rest of my syllabus is posted in Schoology, and I invite you to click through. It's an interactive syllabus, and there might be some more information that you would like to know in that syllabus. I learned a lot this summer. I taught summer school so I could learn how to be a good virtual teacher, and we use some new strategies that your students never used before prior to this year. One of them is called Pear Deck, one of them is called Jamboard, and one of them is one that I made up called Send Your Answer to the Chat. So what that looks like is when we do Pear Deck, I encourage them to join the Pear Deck slideshow on their phone while keeping the Zoom meeting running on their computer. And it's a way for them to answer questions that I pose and answer them anonymously, and then we can look at the class responses and check for understanding. So this is an example from the icebreaker we did on day 1. Now, when I use Pear Deck, of course, my questions are content-based, but it's a really fun learning tool that helps me engage students when I'm teaching virtually. Another tool I use often is I ask a question to check for understanding, and then I give them a minute to compose their answer in the chat feature of Zoom, but I tell them not to send it until I say go. And what this does is everybody's answers coming in all at the same time, and it doesn't put anybody on the spot. And I find that students feel more comfortable answering questions if I use this strategy. And then finally, probably the most important strategy that I'm using is Zoom breakout rooms. I really miss letting students work in pairs and small groups for labs and activities when we're teaching and learning in person. But Zoom breakout rooms allows me to assign students to breakout rooms in small groups where they can share their screen and collaborate together to help each other on certain assignments. And I can pop in and out of breakout rooms, and there's a button they can click to call me in if they need me before I get to their breakout room. So that's been working out really nicely. There are 2 main platforms that I'm using this year. Remind is a way for me to send a message to students on their phone, but I don't see their phone number. When they sign up for Remind, there's a way to put their phone number in and make it invisible to me, but it allows me to send them text messages to remind them of important things. So for example, I always send them a reminder on Wednesday morning to remember the 10:15 assessment. And then everything else is in Schoology. It's your one-stop spot for your child's learning. So we've got the grades in there, we've got the Zoom links to the meetings in there, we've got a lot of additional resources, including the online textbook that we sometimes use, and most importantly, we've got our daily work in folders. We've also got a way to send messages to parents and students through Schoology. So this is what my Schoology page looks like. There's a beautiful picture of the ocean, and then underneath are some live links to some important things that students need. I know that times are very tough for most people with COVID-19, but if you find that you do want to donate to the science program at any time, there is a link for a biology donation, but no pressure. This is where you would find the Wednesday Life Assessment. This is an example of the one we had last week. This is the link to the form if the student misses the assessment. We don't have a hard copy book for biology because our book got to be very outdated and we couldn't find any new books that were aligned with the next generation science standards, which is how we teach our course. So we have a really wonderful online textbook called CK12. I taught students how to use it last week. We don't use it every single lesson, but occasionally I will assign them to read something out of the textbook to support what we're doing in class. And it's very engaging. It's got little video clips and it's really up to date and aligned with the next generation science standards. And I really like it better than any paper book I've ever used to teach biology, to be honest. This is where they would find the meeting Zoom links every week, right on my first Schoology page. And then this is what a typical daily folder looks like. They would open up the folder, they would see the attendance question, they would see the lesson flow, they would see the main activity for the day, they would see the exit ticket, and then the very next day I would have posted my slideshow that I went through in class. So it's very organized and they've all gotten quite used to finding things in my Schoology. So I just want you to know that I'm having a really fun time teaching online. I really am. It's encouraging me to be creative and to learn new things. And your children are very respectful and eager to learn and really wonderful to work with. And I want to encourage you to email me should you have any questions at any time. And thank you for watching.